Meet the madman, coming straight to you with movies, cigars, and a brew. Discussing movies while kicking back, whether they are good or they're bad. With the hottest movies and non-released, I am talking about details and what I see. So tune into the podcast while I vent with reviews, news, and nonsense, yeah.
And now, recorded live from the capital of the first state of these great United States, Keith.
This podcast you're about to hear is brought to you by Duclaw's Dirty Little Freak. Now, that's not really true. I don't have any sponsors. But if I did, I would let these guys sponsor me today because this is actually a good beer. I'm going to tell you. The movie I'm going to talk about, though, is John Wick 2. And this movie surprised me a little bit because the first time around, I did not expect anything from it. I didn't even see it in the theater. I think I saw it on Netflix rental. And it was very surprising because it really keyed upon some of the greatest parts of Keanu Reeves' career, where he did not overact and he used his martial arts skills. It turns out, he's 52 years old, and you wouldn't even know it by looking at him in this movie. He's really he really can kick some rear end, and he he does so in this movie. The choreography is outstanding, off the charts. Chad Stahelski helms this again. He was in the last one. He doesn't have a lot of actual directorial credits to his fame, but he does have a tremendous amount of stunt coordination credits. And he was, he did the stunt coordination for films like 300, The Matrix, V for Vendetta, and Constantine. Just to name a few. I mean, his credits go way back. I mean, he started out like in the 80s in some of the kung fu type, movies. So he's got a tremendous amount of history with being able to doing stunt coordination. And he's also taught martial arts, which also helps, I think, a great deal if you're going to do this type of movie. And, he's really into kickboxing, etc. And if you look at those movies, 300, The Matrix, V for Vendetta, they had some extremely slick moves in terms of the fighting and the style. So you can kind of feel that what he brings to the table. And that's really what you get in this. You get another big healthy dose of what people refer to as gun fu. It's not kung fu, but it's a lot of guns. And so it's that stylized thing. I mean, this guy is a dead-on assassin. He just does headshot after headshot after headshot, and that's really how this movie starts right out. I mean, it doesn't even waste any time with any preamble. I mean, you kind of are thrown right into a situation where you're seeing John Wick have to go and get his car back again from somebody, and it looks like it was somebody that was related to tie into the last movie, and I guess there might have been some ending that kind of left it that way. I don't recall. But, he's just blasting through these people. And actually, he gets to his car, and he starts tearing around with his car and busting it up. And you're like, well, doesn't he want this thing? Why is he doing all this crazy stuff to his car? It's in a beautiful Mustang as well. But you wonder why he does it. And then, after he kills off everybody just about, and he goes home like with it in pieces, doesn't even have a door, and he opens up the glove box, and there's a card in there. I guess it was a birthday card that he got from his deceased wife, and there's a picture of the two of them together, and you realize that that's what this thing was all about. Of course, he doesn't like people to take his stuff, and he will kill you for taking the stuff. That might have been enough alone, but what he really wanted out of that car was the picture. So this sets up the beginning of it, and that's all sort of almost just like the opening before they even show anybody's credits. The movie just starts in the viewing that I watched, and I'm assuming that that's the way it was intended. It jumps right into the action. Quickly, he's barely there any time. I mean, he has enough time to take all of his stuff downstairs and bury it back into the basement floor, and he pours concrete, and it's down there drying. As soon as that happens, he's getting a knock on the door. And so apparently all the actions that took place in the prior movie has made it so that this guy, you know, you never knew how he got out of the game, but part of the reason he got out of the game is because he got out of this assassin's club was that he performed this impossible task, and apparently the guy that knocks on the door helped him some way, and you realize that this is a much broader thing, and he holds his marker, which basically is a bloody thumb imprint. So somehow he helped him get out of it and retire, but because he came back and killed everybody, he's like, well, you're not really out of the game, and I'm calling in my marker, and I want you to go kill my sister. So that's where the story really starts, and his sister is, you know, a connected Italian mob boss, because their father apparently, you know, left it to her, so she's got the control of it, and he wants to take it from her. That's where we start the movie, in essence, and he, you know, so brilliant in terms of the fighting sequences. The movie is 2 hours and 2 minutes long, which, to me, is a little bit too long. It starts to get a little bit tiresome in terms of, I mean, how many times can you see him wrestle a guy to the ground, shoot that guy in the forehead, and another guy just magically appears at that moment that he wrestles to the ground, and he shoots him in the forehead. And sometimes he pops off 2 or 3 in the forehead right at the same time. Meanwhile, it seems seemingly the other guys don't ever even get to fire the gun, which is you know, that's the way these fighting movies are, and that's fine. And in terms of the actual choreography and stuff, you simply are not going to see anything any better. I mean, this is you know, almost like Raid, you know, type of the Raid quality in terms of just it's different. Obviously, the Raid's its own thing, but this is pretty impressive the way that they did this. And but so here's the buts. You know, as a fighting movie, it's fantastic, but as taken as a follow up to the first one with the expansion of the story. And simply, there's just a lack of heart in this one, because in the first movie, you know, they killed the dog, they took his car, and, you know, the scenes were pretty tight. You didn't get the world didn't get too big, and you know, and most of the action that took place seemed to be dark and deserted, that type of stuff. This movie kind of brings it right out there into the front. I mean, there's fighting sequences that take place on subway platforms. There's stuff that takes place just out in the middle of places, and sometimes there was a couple places, especially during the Italian thing, when all this fighting and carnage is going on, people don't even seem to be reacting to the fact that there's guns going off in their midst. And that you know, and I don't believe even in those scenes the guns were silenced. And so it begins to wane in terms of, you know, how you feel about the world in which it takes place, and it's a little bit diminished. And it's okay if you know, these stories barely hold together usually as it stands, but the first one really kind of worked as a revenge flick, because, you know, this punk killed his puppy that was the only connection to his wife, and you really felt for him. You know, you felt for him in that sense. In this one, it's not as great. I mean, because he's getting drawn back in. You know, he's reluctantly doing a job because he has to, because of this code, but it's not a good job, and it's not for a good purpose. So you don't have that same sort of high ground. I know that might be a pathetic way to think of it, but he had a sort of high ground, and he seemed like a guy that really wanted to be out. Right now, you know, with what he's doing, he might be better off just letting them, you know, kill him, because, I mean, what happiness is he going to find in life at this point? And as you will find out, there's going to be a part 3, and the world's even getting bigger at that point. So I don't know what his ultimate end game is. I don't know this story, or if it takes place from something else, or if this was based upon something. I don't actually know. It has that sort of comic booky feel to it a little bit, but you know, all in all, I liked it, but I think it got a little long. Just like this podcast got just a little bit too long. Maybe I should have wrapped it up about a minute and a half ago. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. I can always cut stuff out, though. You don't even know how long I've gone. That's the magic of editing. You know, I don't edit that much, but I do a little. So that being said, I'm only going to give this a B-. I'll play the trailer right after a few little advertising things about where you can follow me. And if you do like any of this, please give me a like out on Facebook or wherever you're hearing this, whether it's the things you're going to hear about in just a second. So go see it. It's fun, but maybe only if you really like fighting movies. Talk to you soon.
You have been listening to the Movies, Cigars, and a Brew podcast. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. Find reviews of other movies, cigars, and beers at moviescigarsandabrew.com. Give a like on Facebook or follow Keith on Twitter at Movie Cigar Beer. Your trailer is coming up next.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Welcome to Rome. Is this a formal event or a social affair?
Social.
How many buttons?
2.
And what style?
Tactical. Mr. Wick, do enjoy your party. How good to see you again so soon.
You have no idea what's coming.
You want a war? Or do you want to just give me a gun? Whoever comes, I'll kill them all.
The man, the myth, the legend. John Wick. You're not very good at retiring.
I'm working on it.